Welcome back to another episode of Who's to Say. I'm your host, Tom Foolery, and we are going to hopefully get into exclusively Tom Foolery. Today, we've got video mode activated, we've got amazing content that I get to enjoy on a daily basis that I want to bring to all of you from the man, the myth, the legend, David Avocado Wolfe. And if you are unfamiliar with the OG meme lord, the legend of timeless space, something of a traveler. He's a remarkable contributor to, I would say, the best of the internet and the best of information circulation. Certainly trying to liberate people through different perspectives, and I dig all that stuff because, as you'll see, there's an amazing and potent dose of humor that accompanies the way that we hopefully a way that we share perspectives on what's going on now. And I love that Alan Watts attribution where he says that just as laughing at oneself is true humor, knowing oneself is true knowledge, and those go really hand in hand. And so, as for Mr. Wolfe, Mr. Avocado, he features prominently in a lot of circles that I'm tuned into, especially that originated in health freedom movement, but have now evolved into something nameless. You can call it the Tao, you can call it whatever you please, but it's very interesting because it weaves so many different dimensions of our reality, of our dimensions, and it's an inquisitive spirit that I want to promote. And to that end, I wanted to share in a somewhat crude way, but this is a little bit of a nudge to get the video action going some more, to share some of the great memes and videos, and as I said, just really transformational imagery that comes across my desk, my phone. And it's easy to lose a day getting into David's stuff because it is so dense, and he's just one of those people who can organize his delivery of very complex information. I've been fascinated to learn so much from him about parasites, parasite treatment, because of his decades long success now with great detox programs, and of course before they were trendy. And uh, it's such a chasm these days to be in full detox mode, because David can also, as someone who represents the detox space and those modalities, he also holds in his other hand the understanding that not all parasites are universally unilaterally bad. I mean, we need them in the soil as we need them in our gut microbiome, as we need them in our mouth, as we need them in our nose to play their roles. But if you get overwhelmed and there is a certain preponderance of parasite presence that interferes with your elimination, your breathing, your mental clarity, your sleep, anything significant like that deserves some attention. And so it's just one of the myriad hats that Mr. Avocado wears, and look forward to crossing paths one day from mutual appreciation. But to start, to dive in rather to some of this fun stuff, because I just wanted this to be a real rant, riff, and rave about uh, again, these things that may seem a little harmless on the surface because they're just a picture or a 60-second clip here and there. But then again, if you ask the powers that should not be, there's legislation out there dedicated to the mitigation of the spread of satire, of bonafide humor, poking fun at people in power, people who are disenfranchised. And what kind of sick world is that if you don't get to enjoy, uh, again, hopefully we all find ourselves on a path where we are recognizing ourselves in other people. And as I've said before, it's liberating, and of course also the paradox of that is that you're also so connected, but you're liberated from so much judgment and given to forgiveness. I think because, yeah, I mean, if I can see that there's a a Joe Biden in me, a Donald Trump in me, fill in the blank in me and I in them, then yeah, I mean, you just don't get as worked up when these people do you wrong deliberately through ignorance, whichever, uh, and anywhere in between. But again, it's much more inspirational. It's something I've learned from many people, but David Avocado Wolfe for sure. That you still got to keep it moving, and you still have to keep your energy directed toward your dreams, which creates your reality if you can really visualize it on a regular basis. And so he deals in the language of imagery, and especially of memes, things that he creates for sure. And I'll start with this one. And thankfully, this is stuff that I can read to you all who are listening, but it might be worth a check on the video. And I'm happy to get y'all connected with David Wolfe's Telegram channel, which is the medium for, I would say, mass information movement and consumption, and community as well. I mean, that's what's interesting, are these channels where you can interact. And I, follow David's cousin Sherveen as well. He'll just drop in with some great spiritual shares and meditations and reflections and updates. And it's a very fun use of my phone time. It's like checking this, doing a task, hitting play on a podcast, and that's really it. Because otherwise, if you're caught up in the screen, then you see less and less of what's real and what's real to you. So that's my caveat against a lot of screen time. But we choose wisely, and we direct our focus and appreciation to things like this, which is, it's a pill bottle, but it says gratitude with the prescription sign on the label instead, with the directions that say take a dose every morning. May cause shifts in perspective. May cause feelings of abundance. Decreased feelings of fear and anxiety. And as someone who is a disciple and an advocate of the free energy out there, it doesn't require an expensive gym membership or app or grocery shop, anything like that, to have some gratitude. And it compounds, and yes, it transforms how we. So thinking about that in preparation for this, if we engage in the common parlance of energy, and people say, oh, yeah, my energy is really good, or I wasn't really feeling her energy. Sometimes what we transpose on that meaning, again, just the limits of our language being what they are, but still a misconstrued usage and reception of, using that language around energy. But I think what we conflate that with is mood, which is still, part of it. It's a finger on that hand of energy. There's other aspects as well. The battery, which is genuinely from fuel and movement and things like that, but also the energy that comes from Dr. Happiness, Dr. Quiet, things like that. But so something like if we still use the language of mood, you take something like gratitude and you posit it to someone that, for free, except for your own discipline and your own thoughts being invested in an attitude of gratitude. Maybe we can't make wide-ranging representations about the health benefits, even those of us who know the mind-body for sure. But even if you could just pitch it as it, you'll have a much better mood. Your mood will be supreme delight most of the time. Isn't that attractive to you, man or woman? So that's why I don't find this stuff too cheesy. I enjoy the reminders of coming back to a choice of, do I want to embrace the choice of feeling grateful for the good, the bad, the unknown? Of course, rather choose abundance over anything, and so that can be a mood. And I mean, yeah, we can dig into the specific, chemical health benefits of gratitude, but I don't think that really needs to be. It means something different to everyone, especially if you, yeah, maybe it's a massive mental pivot to start having gratitude for challenges. And I mean, gosh, that has brought me through some times, to be sure. And again, that's just a choice. It's just a choice of our ability to open our eyes and see with open focus. And maybe one of the things we see, I mean, again, this is that real spit coming to you live, David Avocado Wolfe Telegram channel, and Who's to Say with Tom Foolery, uncertified collaboration, but we're picking up some momentum here. This is another message that says some families don't need to exchange gifts for Christmas. They need to exchange apologies, settle old disputes, make peace, forgive, and seek healing. That would be a truly blessed Christmas. I agree, David. I agree. That's the real gift giving, receiving, humility, generosity that would transform this time of year like it's supposed to, like it's like cosmologically it's supposed to. Having grown up in a Roman Catholic tradition, I am personally familiar with the sanctity of this upcoming time of year, and the commercialization has really upset me in years past. I'm taking it in sleigh bell stride this year, just for, again, a choice to see things differently. But for real, it I felt like what it has led to is, I mean, still the same. The fact that it would be considered a stressful time of year is a travesty. That it's not a time when people can feel the slowdown and feel the depths of what winter time has come to mean. And I followed David give his talk for a summit about real cosmology, real Earth, and it's just so interesting to think about the disparate dynamic with our sense of time, and we don't have to get into seconds, minutes, hours until it comes to the turnover a day, the turnover of a month, of a year. And the question I have for you all, if you haven't chewed on this already and really tried to digest what it could mean to your life and to all of our lives, is why is a new year considered to be in the dead of winter when all of nature that surrounds us recognizes birth, rebirth as characteristic of springtime? Days getting longer, abundant sunshine and warmth. I mean, that is what new cycle, new life really means. Instead, ours is in basically the dead of winter. And I say ours as in the Gregorian calendar, which wasn't a feature for, or wasn't a facet rather of society until the 16th century, I believe. So who knows what the hell year it is, but we do know that a Christmas celebration is coming up in about 2 weeks. If you're catching this before that Christmas time, if it's something you celebrate, if nothing else, then a chance to be with your family, your chosen family, may it be filled with the courage, the openness to have deep personal conversations that are heart-centered. Because now so much of the gabble around the holidays is like, oh, don't talk politics and don't be the weirdo, like me, who's talking about raw milk with my family at Thanksgiving, and all the politics as to why raw milk isn't available here in Massachusetts in a grocery store. Which, I mean, to say a word on that in passing, if you don't already know, I post some of the stuff. I have a link tree for the podcast that's available on my Instagram to get. I post favorite lectures there or podcasts or material like the Weston A. Price's Foundation on butter and vaccines and water and a whole food diet. So raw milk is certainly something that they are on a campaign to make more widely accessible, and they can lay out in greater detail than I will take the time to now how it came to be for the blanket blame given to a very sickly group of cows, or the way of raising cows that, pasteurization apparently became necessary, that you need to burn out and boil out and bleed out any bacteria because, what if these cows get sick, and then, don't we want it to live on the shelf for, or in transit for a couple days, couple weeks, live in your fridge for way longer than milk really should. And in that process, I mean, you come with the takeaway that some of that was fabricated, and the resulting, that scenario of cow's milk needs to be treated because some people got sick. There's a very faulty evidence base for that, because again, it was poor conditions for the cows, and but again, pasteurization being a fractional measure presented as a half truth. I mean, so a fraction of a half truth, some tough math here that ends up convincing people, without much information and consent. And how can you have consent without a lot of information? It ends up people thinking, okay, all I want is pasteurized, ultra pasteurized. If it's on the grocery shelf, it must be good for me. Another great David Avocado Wolfe meme that goes around says that if in the grocery store there's a health food section, what is everything else in the store? It's a deep question. It's a philosophical question, so dig into that. But put a lid on raw milk to keep it fresh. When you pasteurize, that process of raising the temperatures to such a high degree, killing necessary bacteria that is interacts with your GI functions, with your immune system, because of the magnificent role that the GI plays in your immune function. Raw milk is supposed to be a boon to that, especially being so unadulterated, so pure. I mean, how many things do we really have pure access to anymore? You don't have pure water. Most people are afraid of pure water in nature, from springs, because they think it needs to be treated, and it doesn't. It doesn't. I could go on from raw milk to water and the significance of having access to some form of purity, as pure as you can make your breath. It behooves you in manifold ways, because, as I've pointed out before, you can go weeks without food, days without water, and seconds, maybe minutes if you're lucky, without breath. So determine for you where it is on your hierarchy, but you go outside and you take a couple minutes of conscious breathing, that could change your whole nervous system's interaction with the rest of your day, your relationships. That's all I'll say on that for now. But as for Christmas, give some people raw milk, just leave it in their stocking above the fire. It'll be fine. It'll be about as warm as we can let it get. But peace, I mean, yeah, it's supposed to be the time of peace. And winter, to say something for winter time, that this is supposed to be a resting, resetting, preparing for the new year in the spring. I mean, take some downtime. Don't feel like January 1 is when it's still dark out and you can hardly find the sun. You still have to grind for your goals and your resolutions. It doesn't have to be like that. Nothing has to be a grind anyway. So don't grind yourself, especially in January. One thing as for New Year's resolutions go, I love this from Dan John, who's a coach I followed for maybe 10 years now. And because he works so much with athletes and lifelong athletes, there's still the question of weight loss, and how do you go from maybe competition weight to a stable weight, a homeostatic weight. And he'll say, big picture, I appreciate this, that it's not just what you do in, with a 3-week program or a 3-month program, but if you aim every new, call it January, every new year to weigh 1 pound less than you did the year before, I mean, that brings you into, yes, a grounding point, and also, yeah, just hopefully an average that you can hone, and still, let's say it's a target weight, but if you're within, one, especially for longevity, that makes a lot of sense to me, that you don't want to maintain too much mass beyond a certain point, for all the conversation that goes on now about more accepted steroid use among, I'd say, men. So much of it is the testosterone replacement therapy, and I know young guys who do stuff like that, and of course, in ideal environments that would not be necessary. You would have sufficient access to testosterone inducing activities. Of course, weightlifting, competition, anything like that is massively useful. What you eat in your diet, for proteins and fats, certainly animals. But what comes up with that is you get to, your body certainly adapts to the training, and most people put on size or go the, certainly the lean muscle mass is the other end of the spectrum, which is not necessarily efficient and beneficial to long-term health, because you still need some good old fat. You do need some. The ranges for men and women of course differ, but I mean, if you're 10 to 15, I mean, I think that's class. That's really for men and women. I'd give maybe women I we'll call that a good range. I mean, the physiologies are very, very different, and where fat gets stored, and what stress responses are. I mean, pretty much we all respond to stress with fat storage. That's a preservation technique, and that's why, part of why it's essential to ensconce yourself on a perch for your own health and take that big picture landscape look at all stress impacts, and hopefully you can then choose the ones that suit your growth, that spur you to more strength, more wholeness, more stability in your practices and in your character, trust in who you are, but chosen stress, cold, endurance, hot, resistance training, tough yoga, intense bouts of creative production, whatever that stress level is. But then it's hopefully addition by subtraction for the rest, because otherwise you leave yourself vulnerable to, of course, inflammation, fat storage. Those things lead to injury, and then it's such an intensely positive feedback loop in one direction of, I can't do this, I don't have energy, look how much my mood sucks, I can't turn my mood around to help me get on my way. So you never know. I mean, talk about stresses that are pertinent to that, to this image again. If families could exchange apologies, settle old disputes, understand that we can't always give people the gift of judgment. Sometimes we have to take it easy on them. Make peace, forgive, seek healing. That would transform an otherwise, because think about people like, oh my gosh, I'm going into another year of not talking to my husband, ex-husband. It's hard not to talk to your spouse, but my daughter, my cousin, whatever, and that's no way to be. A good switch up for those of you listening is to think about what will be happening this time next year. Of course, I beseech you to stay in the present moment, but we all look at the calendar ahead, but even if it doesn't really serve us, and there's been a lot of talk about what time of year the election cycle will be, throughout the year, how that ratchets up, and I just got such a kick out of this. So this picture of Taylor Swift performing, and the caption reads, "Taylor makes millions singing about her bad choices in men." And Taylor endorses Joe Biden. It's just too brilliant, because I challenge anyone to, and I mean, let's assume the opponent to Joe Biden in an election might just be an unnamed. Don't assume it's Trump. Don't assume it's anyone, or RFK, anyone. Um, think of it like that. Like, do you really want to endorse that guy, those guys, the Bidens plural? Uh, it's just very very on brand for Taylor, and she'll probably make a song about it, how he lets her down when he doesn't win the presidency. I don't know who will. I don't know what the hell will happen. I have my own suspicions that it will be representative of uh, what this country wants or needs, although I have come to believe more in the even the public consciousness in a culture, in a country. That is a creative force that, I mean, we really do get what we deserve in that regard. And I mean all of us, as much as I talk about alternative forms of governing and voluntarism and power plays politics, my own rants on those. I still know that, I don't get resentful or feel victimized by what's going on right now if I don't agree with it, because I know I'm creating it in a lot of ways. And not that I have to go create some sort of massive movement in the other directions, but we're all in this together. The public consciousness is clearly only ready to handle what we have right now. What will precipitate and then promote that leap, that hopefully a quantum leap to different way of doing things, I do not know. I'm curious, I'm open, I'm becoming more solutions oriented. I think a lot of it has to do with the reclamation of Eros, as Dr. Mark Goffney would say. Kelly Brogan just did a world-class presentation on that, that if you're curious about male, I've described it as a lecture on emotional intelligence for male-female dynamics and becoming spiritual adults in this world. And she speaks largely to women, but I found a treasure trove of great new ideas in that presentation. And Kelly Brogan's one of my favorites for sure. I appreciate where she comes from, what she's doing now. It's epic. But male female dynamics, talk about, I mean, thinking about daddy government and thinking you want Joe Biden to be your daddy and have that family of his party or his people. It's the same for the Trumpster, although I don't have it here, but one of my favorite memes from this collection that comes through on a daily basis, I think it's a cat lying down looking up at the sky, and the caption says, "Sometimes I just miss the way he said China." This is real Tom Foolery, silly goose stuff today, but you won't catch me talking much about politics. I just think it's clear as day that Joe Biden, clear as chemtrails in the sky, I should say, that Joe Biden is not fit for service, not fit for his position now or next year, and y'all can figure it out for who you want next. This is how I would describe David Avocado Wolfe. His presence sort of in my virtual mind is it's a picture of Gandalf from the I would say probably from the Hobbit part of the Tolkien stories, and meme lords these days is the overarching heading, and pretty much what it comes down to is I smoke weed and know things. And I think that's what we can say about Gandalf for sure, that he smokes his weed and knows things and does things, and the level of wizardry that David Avocado Wolfe and others are operating with right now is really epic and really entertaining. And that's why I enjoy this stuff and want to share it all with you guys. I just had the distinct pleasure of watching all available extended versions of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and on an enjoyment level, I mean, I think I enjoyed The Hobbit more than I ever have. It's such a great adventure. And Lord of the Rings, I mean, with almost, I think it's 4 and 3/4 hours, or call it, yeah, just about, of the Return of the King, and so much more context to how the story develops and what these what these scenes mean over the course of the plot. But more than ever, I was just really into the despair that the heroes don't give into, but still confront. Even Frodo, he might seem a little wimpy as he's complaining all the way to Mordor, but hey, I mean, I don't know if I would do much better. I love to complain. Who doesn't like to complain sometimes, and have a friend or someone acknowledge you. But no, there's such epic stories, and I can't wait to go back and reread them, because the depth of, I mean, yeah, like any epic story like that, you can read into it in countless ways that enrich it every time you interact with it. But I loved the extended versions, like I said, because of the augmented context for everything, and it just makes the resonance factor so much more impactful, that like you really can dig why things happen as they did, and just the significant. I mean, I can. They're not really spoilers. I'm sure you've all buddy seen the Lord of the Rings at this point, but especially Two Towers, I would say. The conversations with Saruman and Grima Wormtongue, or Saruman and Mordor. I mean, that stuff just makes the dynamics of the wizarding world so much more interesting. We pivot to a classic conversation on this podcast, which is big pharma implications, and it's this particular image and caption are two scientists, ostensibly in a lab coats, and the gentleman standing over the woman has on his jacket 3 different brands of Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J, and his takeaway is, as he looks at whatever data set this woman is also gazing upon and analyzing, her colleague says, "Incredible. Our findings match exactly what the people who write our paychecks said they should be." And that, if you don't already know, is the story of not just big pharma on the commercial product side, but the deluge on down to medical research science. And as addressed before, the differences between medicine and science are so vast, and yet they're really married off in a gross way, that is producing scientism, and is producing a medical model that is distrustful of the natural, infinitely wise design of the human body that no scientist can dissect and explain, especially when they try to do it piecemeal and don't understand that the body is a system of systems, and possibly beyond our comprehensive understanding. And so what you get is our agendas and initiatives that say, we really only need research done in this respect if it makes money, if it supports the existing pharmaceutical model. Do they already have products for it? Okay, great. Then we don't need to improve or seek out alternatives. And of course, more often than not, alternatives get suppressed. The more I come to learn about homeopathy, which, to say it in a phrase, is the utilization of a distilled toxic substance that you ingest so that you have some form of, I mean, this is sort of what people think of when they think of the idea of vaccinations. Of course, vaccines contain a host of other things other than just a killed virus, whatever that means to you, whatever that means to a lab full of people testing. Also something that they doctor into oblivion, and so there's no isolated pure virus that we're talking about. But again, homeopathy being using a distilled version of that toxin that you ingest somehow, so that you do develop, a sort of endogenous immune response that helps rally your white blood cells, your red blood cells, all cells really, all tissue healing, everything to get you right, and not to suppress what you're going through, but just say, okay, this is a dose that you can handle. It's why I thought it was interesting, because I knew when Aaron Rodgers, for instance, talked about, and he's addressed this, that there was no ambiguity about his vaccination status when he was with his team. He didn't deceive anyone. It was because they made guys who didn't get it wear wristbands, and you're apart from the team, and you're doing, press conferences virtually while your team's in the clubhouse or in the press room and in person. And so there was no deception. It was just like Novak. Novak was just on 60 Minutes, and only one or two really weird questions from John Wertheim, to be forgiven, for his employ. But it was, the weird question was something about, to Novak, did you feel like you misread or misunderstood the people of Australia, when you were making your plans to go there? And Novak was basically like, what the fuck are you talking about? I did the chain of command. I got the exemption from the public health officials of Australia. That's all you need to do. And for his own explanations, no deception there. It just turns into people. I don't know what it turns into. I don't know what it really resulted in. But as for Aaron Rodgers, I bring that up because for Aaron Rodgers, when he said, in the end, I got a homeopathic substitute, that's not ambiguous for me. I understand he's not getting vaccinated, but he went to some measure saying, some sort of toxic anticipation intervention that, of course, is better for you than all the junk that's in a vaccine. That's a valid approach. It's a valid approach for any of you. For anyone who would opt for a more natural version of whatever it is that you're. I have to figure this out for poison ivy. I got to do my own kit going into next spring and yard and garden work. But so stick with me for that. Hopefully, I find the right concoction, elixir to get me through. But that's because of Rockefeller medicine, because of the Flexner Report, so early 20th century, and what we get now from medicine, it is dominated by science. It is dominated by, this is a chemical synthetic intervention that we've determined in our narrow data set, ignorant or discounting of side effects, downstream unintended effects of, take ibuprofen, regular anti-inflammatory use, and what that does to your. Had a friend who was doing a great thing in using heat on a strain injury, and then taking anti-inflammatories, and to say nothing of what anti-inflammatories do to your gut lining. They are a culprit of inhibiting a natural response, which your body is just, and that's so much. Same for fever suppression. That's what we're trying to get right with terrain theory, is you just have to give your body the space to breathe and do what it's trying to do. Nobody likes to be sick. Nobody likes to be less than their best, to be sure, but we still got to give it space. And what I accept is that the longer we suppress symptoms of any kind, the longer we suppress emotions of any kind, we are mounting an inevitable manifestation of chronic or life-threatening disease and injury. Especially the suppression of symptoms. I think that does lead to cancers, and it's not autoimmune issues. Your body would never attack itself. There are other mechanisms at play, when you can't have, the right immune responses. So, those have been accelerated by the medical interventions of the last couple of years. That's why following a guy like David Avocado Wolfe, who has detox protocol, is a must follow. As for me, as for my own approach to sharing this information with people, anything that I believe will be of service to someone's healing, growth, enlightenment, awareness, whatever you want to call it. I'm very aware that there is a villainy to it, sometimes a tyranny to it, which is why I give a a birth of understanding to the tyrants out there. But this comic is great. It's a guy in a tie, looking like he just got home from his insurance work, uh, sitting next to a Viking who's got they've each, the guy with the tie on has a cup in front of him, and the Viking has a skull cup in front of him, and he says, "The skulls of your enemies are much more environmentally friendly than plastic cups." Just saying. It's true. It's true. We could absolutely use the skulls of our enemies as receptacles, but so my own tyrant and my own character costume I wear of I want to be right, and I've got the answer for you. Sometimes it looks like that is like I want blood, and Kelly Brogan was talking about this the other night, just nailed it for me, bullseye, to recognize that, and hopefully to back off and not perpetuate an antagonistic relationship that people have with health professionals or educators or new age guys, whatever the experience. But I know that feeling of like, hey, I would like to be drinking the blood of my enemies out of their skull. Not in a supremely violent way, but I think we all know that intense fixation with, not just being right, but their submission, their recognition of you're right, or whatever you went, yeah, that makes sense. Like that's not really in a heart center way what we desire when we share things with people that are outside their comfort zone, that are outside their realm of experience or curiosity. I try to let it rip here on the podcast. Today was absolutely a let it rip day. If you look at the cosmology of the day, I want to share a couple amazing new astrological resources for you all. If that's ever been anything that you're curious in, if you want to brush up on what your chart meant and means to you, or if you're an older listener and might have a history with it from the good old days, it's worth a great look. Just some of the free resources out there, the commentary on what's going on cosmologically, and then as above so below, what goes on here and on the earth plane. And I say that deliberately, but that's a discussion for another time. What's going on right now is a let it rip time, and that's why with this kind of stuff I don't want to hold back. Absolutely want to share stuff like this. I was just scrolling, was having a conversation with a friend the other day with whom I went to school, high school, at a all boys Jesuit school. Stellar experience, and I'm so grateful for it, especially for what my folks did to get me there, and certainly not anything I could have said no to if I wanted, because my alternatives were conducive to a path that would not lead me to a life that I enjoy, or certainly one that I'd be sharing with you all. But we were talking about issues with school, and I want to give a perspective that I hope comes through with the volume. And this is the first time, like I said, that I want to try something like this. But let's give this a shot, see if the volume comes through.
School system, they don't want us to learn about money because they just want to pump out good employees that do what they're told. I mean, if you look at school, it's opposite of what it takes to be successful in real life. Don't make a mistake. Do as you're told. Take tests by yourself. Don't cooperate. Do it by yourself. Do it on your own. And the last thing was, there's only one right answer. No, there's tons of answers to a problem. So you come out of school scared to death of making a mistake. You do everything on your own. You don't cooperate. There's no synergy. There's no brainstorming. And there's only one right answer. Everybody wants to get the right answer. There's no one right answer. So I think people come out of school paralyzed. I think the school system is criminal in that it kills a child's spirit of learning. A child goes into school all excited about, yeah, I'm going to learn and it's going to be great. And then the teacher says, sit down and shut up. Don't talk. We don't care what you're interested in.
Yeah, so that's it is criminal how it's come to that. And I had a brief stint of experience in homeschooling, and of course it's massively different. The thing that I think really kills me from that breakdown and these are the gems that you can get if you subscribe for free to the David Avocado Wolfe Telegram channel, which enriches my life, as I said, on a daily basis. Uh, I think what really kills me about that breakdown is the do it on your own, and there's only one right answer. Especially if you try to figure things out in collaboration, in relationship, you realize how many different answers and perspectives there are, and that should light you up. Uh, so the isolation factor, again, just to like test. What are you trying to test when you know it's not really how resourceful or intelligent or aware a stressed out child is who's fretting about their score on this exam if they don't get that one right answer at a time. Of course, that's to say nothing of what the rigidity of a school schedule does to a child's growing body and nervous system, all that. I've talked about that before, uh, but it's fun for me to just pull up a clip like that, and I can send that around to people very very easily when I think of them. Of course, this stuff goes on the Instagram because that's where you gotta subvert. But for real, uh, there's a lot of depth to humor and information. I mean, there's scores of others. I don't know if I have any other gems to share with y'all from the channel. I mean, they're every day, but none that I have saved. But I want to make this somewhat of a regular occurrence to, like I said, just let it rip, because a lot of information can come across with just a meme, just something that we all resonate with, or I never thought of, oh, that's actually funny. I kind of take that seriously, or that situation seriously, but now I can laugh at it. And uh, still, I mean, the cosmic giggle has to be a feature of our days and of our lives, because shoot, if you can't see some of the hilarity going on, in your own mirror for sure, and do laugh at yourself, and experience your shortcoming, your folly with grace, and be a fool. I'm Tom Foolery for a reason, because I want to choose to be surprised, uh, sometimes, often humbled, hopefully not humiliated too often. We'll see. But yeah, the fool, to understand the limit of knowledge, and also to channel that into something that is, that we're able to laugh at, and that we're able to conspire in for true enjoyment, not entertainment. I get away from saying entertainment, because if you want to enter and attain a mind, I mean, that's really what our entertainment industries have become. I don't think podcasts, if you listen to this, others, most are more informational, and I think kind of entertaining in that way, not specifically educational, but if you, have great guests, or teach certain topics, focus on certain topics, of course, a dearth of uh, information there. But entertainment, entering and taking hold of our minds, is not, should not be an easily accessible door, and yet it is, and yet it is pervasively what's what we're trying to be confronted with. Some final thoughts on what is likely to be, whether we know it or not, a dynamic end of the year, with some of the powers that should not be, and decisions that are likely going to be rushed into agreement and passing before year's end, when everyone is distracted with holidays. Um, yeah, I mean, the example I wanted to give that's been on my mind to sort of dissect is, why, when we shift from watching a show or a movie and don't move a muscle, hardly even unplug our wiring into what we just hopefully enjoy, but we're entertained by, and then go check the news. And I'm not being too literal in terms of boom boom, but why do we think that they're different things? Because the vast majority of the content that you get from a news channel, or even a news writing, is edited, uh, chopped up. It's crafted to tell a story. It's very movie like. It's very entertainment like, and that is so much of what legacy media has become. I'm not even big into alternative media right now because it's still overwhelming. It's still more than I want to choose and consume from my diet right now. But just that little seed that like it helps to recognize that we should be that tuned in to a 2D reality that we see a movie and we see what happens on our phone and we see a news broadcast as a different reality. Don't assume, you absolutely cannot assume that everything that you see on a screen is legitimate. I hope that's uh, obvious enough, and I just sound like an idiot restating it, but uh, that's not your reality. Your reality is what you're touching, feeling, hearing, seeing, doing, and more of that exists within inside of you than you may yet know. But we're gonna walk down that path another time, and hopefully together. But this is fun. This is a fun way to let it rip, and I have a lot more in the queue to share with you. But in the meantime, be hard to kill, breathe consciously, still get outside, breathe some fresh air. The sun is shining somewhere, likely just above the clouds over your head. So even if it seems a dark gray December day, go chase the sun. It'll find you. So that's my last poetic line to exit on. But big love. Thanks for tuning in, and go follow. I'll get some links up to follow David Avocado Wolfe on Telegram because it will change your reality. And isn't that always fun? Thanks, guys.